Fauci is back on the corner flapping his wings. Oh, Fauci is still on the corner. I am talking because my computer is about to run out of batteries, so I can't chat anymore. He probably isn't scared. Falcons are very used to heights, so he probably is not feeling fear right now. Yes, he has been fed today, at least once. He was fed last night as well. As for chat on the main cams, we're gonna try to avoid that because we've had some bad experiences with spamming and trolling in the past. So it's a lot of work to moderate a live chat. You can currently barely see Fauci in the shade right on the corner of the right side. He did not fly yesterday, he just jumped down to the ledge yesterday. I don't know. I don't know if we could know what the bird is thinking, to be honest. I think he's probably excited to be in a new place and wants to start practicing flying. He's been doing a lot of flapping, that's for sure. Yep, he's been on the ledge since 6:11 last night. There's a chance that they could go out of order. That usually happens more frequently when one of the chicks is a female because they take 2 to 3 days longer to reach the size where they will fledge. But it's possible. A lot of it depends on the chick personality too. Yeah, the parents do teach them how to hunt. It's really incredible. They will carry prey items and try to exchange them with the chicks mid-air, or start to drop them so the chicks have to catch them. It's a really amazing process to watch. And just an earlier question, I think Annie is totally aware of where all the chicks are. And usually when they do their first flight, they make a bunch of noise, which will bring her and Grinnell right away. So Fauci is on the northwest corner, which is the one we're looking at. On the far right side, that's northwest. Fauci is not on any of the nest cameras. He's outside on the ledge. We've never really seen them spend time in the nest box after they leave. They usually will perch elsewhere at night, and then they will fly. They'll stay on their parents' territory for about 1 to 2 months before heading off on their own. Great horned owl is really the only risk that they have on the balcony. Luckily, Annie and Grinnell are pretty vigilant and would be able to chase it away. They're a little vulnerable, but it wouldn't be that likely that a great horned would be flying that high to see them in the first place. Yep, Annie and Grinnell are aware of where they are. They have very keen sight and hearing and a very good memory of where their chicks are. So they know where Fauci is. I've seen Cockney get in the cutouts a couple times. I don't know if I've seen Weck Weck get in the cutouts yet, but we'll see. They will probably follow him when he takes his first flight. They usually kind of escort the chick as best they can to a safe landing spot. But it kind of depends on whether they're right there with him or whether he decides to go on his own. Grinnell is 7 years old. Annie is at least 7, but we don't know her exact age because she is unbanded. That is kind of early middle age for falcons. We would expect them, they'll probably be healthy enough to nest here for a number of more years. It just depends on how much competition they have for the territory and whether someone comes in to try to take the territory from them. Yeah, they could be challenged by their offspring for the territory. That is certainly possible. It's nothing we've seen so far. The challengers we've seen have generally been unbanded, but they could show up and try to take the territory. The nest box is on the far side of the tower from where we're looking at, so basically the opposite of this sunny ledge inside close to us. He could fall off accidentally. If he did, he would just start flying. I think one of the chicks last year kind of accidentally tripped on the tower and fell off, and then just caught himself and flew very well. So it's possible he could fall off. You know, they're still kind of learning their bodies and movement, so it's possible. But usually we see an intentional flight. I wouldn't worry too much if it's kind of an accidental start to the flight. They are usually able to catch themselves pretty well. There are a number of people who help volunteer to control the cams, and they've been doing a great job this year. Dr. Fauci is aware of the Falcon named after him. We got an email from him. He said he thinks that they are adorable. I was trying to look and see if that was Annie up there. I don't think it is, but it might be. It's a little hard to tell from here. It certainly looks like a Falcon, so it's probably Annie. We have not had anyone fly for the first time. We have Fauci out on the outer ledge. You can see him on the right side of the tower in the shade. And the other two chicks are perched on the nest level. Annie and Grinnell were named by, we invited people to submit name suggestions for Annie and Grinnell, who donated money for the first webcam purchase, and the suggestion for Annie and Grinnell was by someone who felt that they should be named after two UC Berkeley biologists, Annie Alexander and Joseph Grinnell, who were both really influential biologists early in Cal's history. No, Annie Alexander actually hired Joseph Grinnell as the first director of the Museum of Vertebrate Zoology. Annie was, based on contemporary accounts, a lesbian, and she had a partner, so they were not in any way involved romantically. We'll try to do it as much as we can today. probably won't be a constant stream, but we'll try to do it as long as we can. Yep, all the chicks have eaten today. Fauci was fed out on the ledge in the morning, and the other chicks ate maybe a couple hours ago. Yeah, we have still not been able to figure out what the orange thing is. It looked like a Lego for a little while, but I don't think it's a Lego. It might be some electrical connector that was lost up there. We really are not sure. We'll have to take a look next time we're up there cleaning the tower. Yeah, they do kind of wait. It's not too windy for them to fly. I think it would be great conditions to fly today. But if the weather is bad, they definitely will wait to fly. Yeah, there have been a few leg bands from pigeons that have ended up in the nest box. They relatively regularly will capture racing or homing pigeons in the area. We'll keep an eye. I mean, the cams are up all year round, so we'll keep an eye on the chicks as long as they're around. Usually we start to lose them in kind of mid-July to August. They start leaving. And then if we get any reports from people resighting banded birds, that are banded chicks, we'll report them to you all. So we kind of try to keep tabs on them when we can. Red-tailed hawks could attack the fledgling chicks. It's not super likely. Peregrine falcons are kind of one of the apex bird predators, so a red-tailed hawk would likely try to avoid a peregrine. Great horned owls are a bigger threat, and any mammals, if they got caught on the ground, could be a threat as well. The bands contain information So basically they have two bands. The first band is a metal band that contains a 9-digit code, which is unique to the bird, but that can't be read very well except for in the hand. So you usually need to recapture a bird. And then they have a second black band, which has a 4-character code, which is unique to them. Not every bird gets them, but peregrine falcons are one of the species that does. So you can read those bands with binoculars usually. So that's how band numbers are reported to us usually. Probably not. Building access is really, really hard to come by nowadays. So this might be the best we can do. Yes, we had a chick resighted on Alcatraz that was Laurentium, aka Larry, one of my favorite chicks. Larry fledged in 2019 or 2018. And was seen in the Marin Headlands first, and then on Alcatraz, and she bred successfully last year, and it sounds like she is breeding successfully again this year, but they're having trouble getting access to the nest due to its placement. It's apparently really hard to get to. Fauci is still there. You have to maybe squint really hard. He's on the right side of the camera in the shade, so he's really hard to see, but he's a little black dot that's there. Two years ago, we had Carson and Cade, were the two chicks. They were named after Rachel Carson, the author of Silent Spring, who alerted everyone to the dangers of pesticides for birds, and Tom Cade, who founded the Peregrine Fund and was really truly instrumental in bringing the peregrine back from the edge of extinction. We have not heard anything from any of our other chicks, unfortunately. Hopefully we'll hear some. It can take them sometimes a couple years to set up territories. Zika, our bander, she said that they have had chicks end up as far away as Eastern Oregon from the Bay Area. So they have a pretty wide dispersal potential from here. So there's a lot of area that you can look for the chicks. I think his main opinion is that he likes pigeon. Fauci ended up on the ledge at 6:11 last night. So he's been out there 15 hours now, 16 hours. No, more than that. I can do math. There's a lot of variation in how long chicks will stay on their parents' territory. It really depends on the chick personality, to be honest. And we've had them stay between 1 month and I think one was almost 3 months that they stayed. So a lot depends on the chick. Fauci has been fed twice that we know of for sure. Once last night and once this morning. So yeah, he's being taken care of still. Oh, did we just have a bird jump off onto the ledge? They might be able to recognize each other their whole lives. It's a little hard to say. But they'd probably act towards each other as if they were rivals for the most part. Hopefully we can see that other chick walk around and come back out here. We can see both of them. Did anyone see if it was Cocknoo or Weck Weck? Oh, okay. So the other two chicks are still there. There's a lot of swifts flying around out here too, so sometimes you might see a flash pass by the camera and it might be a swift. Yeah, I think they know that Grinnell is their dad. They recognize Grinnell and will beg for food from him, and they definitely recognize both their parents. Yeah, I'm sure they recognize each other as well. You know, birds in general and falcons specifically are fairly smart, and they have very good visual and auditory memories, so they're able to recognize individuals fairly well. I think they would behave very differently for mom and dad. I think at least partially that's why you see Grinnell holding back so much and giving them food, is that he's a lot smaller than Annie, and the chicks might chase him a lot more. With Annie, they might be a little more cautious around her. Although I did see, I think Weck Weck was trying to bite Annie's tail the other day, which was pretty funny. I don't know if they miss Fauci. You know, emotionally, I don't know if we can answer that really. In the video, Cockney ran off with the food, stole it from Annie. Yeah, Annie and Grinnell can take a bit of time to tell them apart. Sometimes I second guess myself a little bit too. I believe. Are you talking about the adults at PG&E or the juveniles? I think the juveniles this year were 2 males and 2 females, but I'm not 100% sure. The adults, I don't know if they're related. They're definitely not one of Annie and Grinnell's chicks, but I don't know if they could be cousins or siblings or anything like that. I'm not sure where the adults at PG&E came from. I'm glad you like the shirt. If anyone is interested in getting shirts, they're still available. You can check the website and find the link. But they turned out pretty well this year. I was pretty happy about that. I have been doing a lot of the social media posts and bad photoshops. That's me. Pilot the cam sometimes. You're welcome. Probably will take about 1 to 2 months. Depends on the chick, but that's kind of the usual time frame. So we'll see. It's anecdotal, but we appear to have had female chicks stay in the nest territory longer than male chicks. But usually we see them for about 2 months. Anyone else lose picture? I still see it as broadcasting. It's really hard to speculate on the dud egg phenomena with Annie. They have yet to raise all 4 or hatch all 4 eggs at this nest, and there's so many reasons why it could happen that it's really hard to speculate. So it could be related to sex potentially, but it's just too hard to say. We try to keep an eye on, or the only way we can really know where previous broods end up is if their bands are spotted by someone out there. So we know Larry is out on Alcatraz, but we don't know where any of the other chicks are. They've never been resighted. So hopefully people will see them eventually. There's a lot of area out there, and for peregrines to use, so there's a lot of places to look. I'm glad you guys have been enjoying them. I'm glad Grinnell is featuring in your Zoom backgrounds. I have him as mine too, where he's kind of off screen, kind of peeking into frame. Yeah, we emailed Dr. Fauci and heard back. He thinks the chicks are adorable. There have been some attempts for peregrines to nest in their second year, so the year after they fledge, but most of the time they start in their third year. Parents will keep feeding them for a couple of months after they leave the nest. They will bring them food, and more often than not, they'll just hand them the food. But sometimes we've caught video of Annie feeding older chicks after they've fledged, the same way she did when they were little. Annie is indeed a boss. Agreed. We don't know the farthest extent the chicks could go to find their own territories. Zika, our bander, said that they have had chicks reported as far away as eastern Oregon. So pretty far, but potentially even farther. It's one of the really big unknowns for birds in general, but also peregrine falcons, how far they'll travel when they leave the nest. Let's see, catching up on some questions. Yes, Annie and Grinnell stay near the Campanile in the non-breeding season. We'll see them relatively regularly. They sometimes spend more time downtown or perched on other buildings, but we do see them all year round. So usually the pattern for fledging is that they'll do their first flight in the morning or in the early evening. So it's likely that we won't see one kind of this afternoon, but that's not to say it's impossible. And yep, we keep the cameras running all year round. So you should be able to see them all year round. Once they've established a territory, it's very rare for them to change. They might change a nesting site within a territory if, something gets damaged or the site is no longer viable. But they really don't, if they have a successful breeding season, they really are pretty, they keep their territory pretty effectively. So we estimate fledging is today based on chick age. So they actually follow a pretty standard development timing, and the average first flight for male chicks is day 40, and I think it's day 42 or 43 for females. So today is day 40, so that's kind of when we're expecting the first flight to be. Grinnell and Annie have had, I think this 13 chicks now. Let's see. Then 3 the first year, then 2, then no, 3, 3. No, it's 2, 3, 2, 3, 3. Yeah, so this is 13 chicks. Happy to answer questions. Glad you guys have been enjoying this. No, that's what we often see is a lot of competition for territories, especially in the off season. Hypothetically, Annie or Grinnell could be driven off the territory during the non-breeding season or even during the breeding season. But they're pretty aggressive about defending their territories. My favorite chick, I think, is Weck Weck. And maybe that's just because I'm an older brother, so I like the younger siblings. From all the chicks, I think Larry is my favorite just because she's stuck around in the Bay Area and we know her story all the way through setting up on Alcatraz. The smallest one is Weck Weck. So hunting training, basically what Annie or Grinnell will do is fly in with a bird, get the chick to chase them, and then drop, often try to either hand it off midair or drop the food so that the chick has to dive down and chase it. Larry had, I think, 3 chicks last year, and they don't know how many this year. They've not been able to see inside the nest, and I don't believe the chicks have fledged yet on Alcatraz. The names this year were voted on and suggested by people following social media. So Fauci is named after Dr. Fauci, who leads the COVID-19 task force and is the director of the NIAID. And then Kaknu is the traditional falcon from Ohlone mythology, who are the local tribe to the East Bay, and Weck Weck is the falcon, the traditional falcon from Miwok, the Miwok tribe. So that's North Bay and out into the Sierras. Larry is named after actually not a person, an element. Her full name is Laurentium, which is one of the elements that was discovered at UC Berkeley. So she and her 2 brothers are Californium and Berkeleyum. So they're all 3 elements that were discovered at Berkeley. We don't have... we have some posts in our history about Larry and where she's been, but haven't had many updates this year, unfortunately. Annie and Grinnell, they eat a lot of pigeons. They also like getting mourning doves, starlings, seen some woodpeckers, red-winged blackbirds were pretty popular. Yeah, they kind of eat a variety. I did not know that wek wek has a bad connotation in Filipino. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool that both the tribal traditions had peregrine falcons. I thought that was pretty awesome that someone was able to find that. For how many people are watching from the ground, I think it's probably between 1 and 5 is usually how many people there are, depending on who needs to work and how many volunteers we have. Not sure who's out there right now. Fauci is still visible. He's on the very far right side of the tower. You might see a little bump on the ledge. That's his head kind of poking up with the background of Haas Pavilion. Yep, Fauci is that dot. Yep, egg laying is just based entirely on season and how the weather is. So I think Arctic birds probably haven't even really started setting up their nests yet, or maybe have just started laying eggs. He might be napping. It's a little hard to say. The ledge is about 2 or 3 feet wide. Glad you've been enjoying them. We have seen I think we've seen 2 intruders get right up to the nest box before. There's been a lot of flybys, but that's not uncommon. No, they've been fed pretty regularly. They're at the age where they just will beg constantly if they see a parent. So they kind of just have to be ignored because they're just going to make a racket no matter what. It really depends. The Many of the chicks stay pretty close, but some have been as far away detected from the Bay Area as Oregon. It's really, really one of the big black boxes of bird biology is knowing what juvenile dispersal is. And that's really kind of limited by technology. For peregrine falcons, for example, we could put a transmitter on them, but the time we ban them, their bodies aren't big enough to hold a transmitter. And if we let them get any bigger, we couldn't catch them in the nest because they'd run away. So there's just kind of this awkward window where you can't put a transmitter on them. So we right now are depending largely on band resightings to know how far away chicks disperse. I don't know if I know off the top of my head what the average like territory length is for peregrines. It depends really on how dense the population is and how much competition they have. So there could be in areas that are highly dense in urban areas where there's a lot of territory turnover. But areas where it's much more sparse, there could be very little, and you could have birds on territory for like 15 plus years. So it's a little hard to say. I think it's been great that we've had Annie and Grinnell on this territory for 5 years now. And I think every year we get is great, but I wouldn't be surprised if in the next like 3 to 4 years we start to see more intense competition for this territory spot. So for the prey dropping question, how they learn to stoop, it takes practice. You'll see chicks start to stoop pretty early, actually, but maybe not get up to the full 200 miles per hour. But that's one of the things that they have to just spend a few months learning how to do. So they, will probably start stooping on prey probably within the first week or two, and just kind of keep ramping up how quickly the dive is and what they're going after. We actually had 2 years ago, one of the chicks was named after Rachel Carson. Chicks do not need any liquid water. They get all the water they need from meat. I think, 3 to 4 years, you're starting to look then at Annie and Grinnell are getting a little bit older, so may not be as effective at defending the territory. But also if, things continue the way they are in the Bay Area, territories are just going to be more and more filled. There's going to be more and more dense population. So that's kind of my thought on why we're going to start to see more and more competition for the territory. That is a really great question, Todd. We know they hunt. We can only really kind of infer where they hunt. I've seen them once hunting down University Avenue and seen them as the birds themselves. But we can kind of infer where they go based on the prey they bring back. They hunt a lot downtown because they're bringing in a lot of pigeons. And we know that they hunt in probably down by the Berkeley Marina because they bring in some water birds sometimes. And we also know they hunt probably up in the hills because they're bringing in birds that are like acorn woodpeckers, which are common up in the hills. So they have a pretty wide territory, and it seems like it stretches all the way from the edge of the bay to up in the hills. But it might be kind of narrow. There's another falcon territory south of them. And then there's another one in Richmond north of them. So it's kind of a little bit hard to say, but we can kind of infer how big the territory is and where they're hunting from what they bring back. We've not had any of the chicks fledge yet. Fauci is out on the ledge. You can see him on the right side of the tower, the little bump. But he has not flown yet, and the other two chicks are in the nesting area still. The strangest prey I've seen them bring in is, I think, black-necked stilt, which we found the remains of that up on the tower, and it's just these like incredibly long legs. Other one, I guess, I think it was 2 years ago now, they brought in on camera a sharp-shinned hawk and fed that to the chicks, which was kind of surprising. If we see a wild banded bird, a banded wild bird, we'll report that band as best we can. If we see a pigeon band that we can identify, we try, but most pigeon bands are not standardized or entered into a database. They're just used to identify a person's specific coop or individuals. So it can be kind of hard. Yeah, chicks are relatively affectionate towards each other. So it's something we've seen every year, is the chicks kind of cuddling together. It's pretty fun to watch that. catching up on a few comments because I stepped away. I'm up at the Lawrence Hall of Science, out on the balcony there. And let's see. So you're probably hearing there's some goldfinches flying by and some swallows and swifts. Yep, Fauci is on the right side of the ledge in the shade. You can see his little head poking up from the shadow. It is unlikely that Fauci will return to the nest box. I think we last year had one of the chicks, maybe Poppy, spend a little bit of time back in the nest box after she'd flown, but only a couple nights, I think. Fauci has been fed twice already out on the ledge, once last night and once this morning. They're going to continue to care for all the chicks, no matter where they are, for the next couple of months. What we've seen the last few years is every time the chicks, once they leave the nest area, go out on the ledge. I think it was only the first year we had chicks that jumped out and missed the ledge. And so that was a little bit more excitement. But right now it seems pretty standard that they end up on the ledge for somewhere between 10 minutes and a day or two before they fly. Fledglings are going to hang around for another month or two. Parents will still feed them and be training them on how to catch their own prey in that time. And so we'll probably still see them on camera every once in a while. The ledge is about 2 to 3 feet deep. Happy to answer questions. Thanks for tuning in and watching. Most commonly, we've seen them fly to Evans Hall first. That's the largest or the closest tall building. We've also see them going. Let's see, I'm trying to remember the other halls they end up on. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they usually end up on top of some of the other halls immediately adjacent to the Campanile. They'll sleep out on those buildings too. There's some learning to it. It's a mix of learning and instinct, and they instinctually will flap their wings. But learning how to fly well is a skill that they have to practice. One of the things that's most difficult for them starting out is landing correctly. You'll often see them flying kind of in a big circle and trying to come in on land on something and missing entirely. So it's a mix of innate skills and learned skills, but there are definitely things that they need to practice before they're ready to really be independent. Yeah, I'm glad this is working. I wish we're a little bit closer to the Campanile because there's a lot of heat shimmer, but it seems to be working pretty well. I think the other brothers are still in the nest, although I'm not currently looking at the cameras, so someone else might be able to know better than I do. So usually the first flights are mostly just controlled falling. They sometimes will have really strong first flights where they'll do just kind of a circle and come right back to where they started. But most of the time it's what's called a butterfly flight, where they'll kind of flap their wings as they're kind of drifting down to their next landing spot. I'm not sure how far we are from the Campanile as the peregrine flies. I don't know, maybe a half mile, a little more. It's from the Lawrence Hall of Science, so it's a ways. It's not a privacy reason. It's more of a technical difficulties setup reason why we can't do landscape view. Because the setup we have is a phone attached to a scope. So if I turned it landscape, it would actually, in our current setup, kind of just fall off. So unfortunately, we're stuck in portrait mode. Javier, we have had our chicks can kind of attempt to catch prey often within their first few days after leaving the nest. It's rare that they will succeed, but they can try. One of the other nests that just fledged in the area, the chicks were trying to hunt butterflies within a couple days of leaving the nest. So could be within the first week. More likely it'll be a little bit longer before they're able to catch their first prey. We have some volunteers watching the falcons from below the tower, so they're keeping an eye on things, make sure everything goes smoothly. And I was able to get the other brothers back on the main cams. It looks like they're both hanging out on the light close to the nest. Question from Molly. Grinnell has a leg tag because he was banded as a juvenile. I believe he was a rescue bird. He was found in somewhere near Martinez. And Annie is just a wild hatched bird that we don't know where she came from. Adult peregrines are notoriously hard to capture. So most of the banded peregrines out there were banded as chicks. Unfortunately, I don't know if I could tell Grinnell and Annie apart from this distance and where they might be. There definitely is an adult perched up very top by just below where the lantern is, but I don't know which one it is. It could be either of them. They could be vocalizing more because Fauci is out on the balcony. I think at this age, though, I would just say that they're probably gonna just vocalize a lot. So I'm not sure why, but they're probably just gonna be noisy. Oh, Fauci's flapping a little bit. Oh man, that's really close to the edge there. Well, looks like Fauci's around the corner. I don't think peregrines are that uncommon in rescue centers. Being a kind of relatively common urban bird that hunts at great speed, they do unfortunately have window collisions relatively frequently. They're still, do very well in cities, but they are not an uncommon bird in rescue centers. I don't know the exact numbers or percentages, but I know that they get, like Lindsay Wildlife gets a few peregrines each year. And they just had to rescue one of the PG&E chicks ended up in the bay, and they pulled it out of the bay and rescued it. Kent, yes and no. The current limitation for bird tracking technology is battery size. We can have really small GPS transmitters that are programmed to give you like 12 locations a year, and that works great. But if you're trying to get like real-time live data, we really need to have much better miniaturization for battery technology. That's currently the limiting factor for a lot of bird tracking technology. So seeing as Fauci is out of view and I need to go eat lunch and move my car, I think I'm going to wrap this one up, but we'll definitely be back out here again, probably a little bit later this evening, and when it's more likely that we'll see a flight. All right, so we'll see you guys in a little while, and yeah, hopefully we'll catch a flight next time.